The year is 1605. The city is London. The night is cold and heavy with conspiracy. Here, in the damp cellar beneath the House of Lords, a man named Guy Fawkes waits for the final match strike that will turn Parliament, king, and country to ash. He is discovered just after midnight. He does not beg. He does not run. He stands defiant, a professional soldier caught in the act. His only regret, he tells his captors, is that the fuse was not already lit. This is where most stories of the Gunpowder Plot end. But for us, this is where the real story begins. The plot's failure was a political victory. But the man himself, Guy Fawkes, would become something else entirely. A project, a subject for a meticulous, state-sanctioned dissection of the human will. King James I, the intended target of the plot, personally authorized what was to come. His written warrant is a masterpiece of cold, bureaucratic cruelty. "Use the gentler tortures first," he wrote to his interrogators, and so by degrees proceeding to the worst. This is the story of those degrees. It is the clinical, day-by-day record of how a government, wielding the full apparatus of the state, reduced a man of iron to a broken vessel, all to extract a single, perfect confession. This is the anatomy of a breaking. To understand the man, you must first understand the fire that forged him. The England of 1605 was a cauldron of religious persecution. For decades, Catholics had been hunted, fined, imprisoned, and executed under Protestant rule. When Queen Elizabeth I died, they prayed her successor, King James I, would be more tolerant. He was not. The hopes for religious freedom curdled into a desperate, radical plot. A small group of Catholic gentlemen, led by the charismatic Robert Catesby, decided that if they could not change the system, they would obliterate it. They needed a professional to handle the explosives. They found Guy Fawkes. Fawkes was not a simple zealot. He was a veteran of the brutal 80 Years' War in Europe, fighting for Catholic Spain against Protestant rebels. He was an expert in siege warfare and explosives. He had seen men die, he had killed, and he had learned the hard lessons of loyalty and discipline. He was, in short, the worst possible man for the English state to capture alive. In his initial interrogation before the King's Privy Council, he was unbreakable. He gave his name as John Johnson and calmly admitted his intent. When one of the Scottish lords asked what he would have done with all the gunpowder, Fawkes reportedly sneered that he would have blown them all back to their Scottish mountains. He was a fortress of defiance, and King James had just given his men the keys to every gate. The deconstruction began, as instructed, with the gentler tortures. This is a sanitizing term. The first tool was the manacles. Fawkes was likely subjected to what was known as being put to the wall. His wrists were locked in iron cuffs, which were then chained to the wall high above his head, forcing him to stand on his tiptoes for hours, then days. The pain is not immediate, but cumulative. It begins as a dull ache in the shoulders, then sharpens as the ligaments stretch. Blood pools in the hands, turning them a shade of blue-black, the skin rope-raw and useless. Sleep becomes impossible. Every muscle screams. This phase isn't designed to produce a confession. It is designed to soften the subject, to introduce the body to the language of prolonged, inescapable suffering. It is the preface to the real horror. Still, for days, Fawkes resisted. The soldier in him endured. He revealed nothing of his true name or his co-conspirators. A human body under extreme, prolonged stress like this is flooded with adrenaline, allowing for incredible feats of resistance. But adrenaline is a finite resource. As sleep deprivation and continuous pain set in, the body begins to produce cortisol. This stress hormone degrades cognitive function, impairs memory, and critically, lowers the threshold for withstanding further pain. The interrogators knew this. They were not just fighting the man, they were waiting for his own biology to betray him. After the gentler methods failed, the order was given to proceed to the worst. In the Tower of London, this meant one thing: the rack. The rack is a machine of brutal simplicity. It is a wooden frame with rollers at each end. The victim's ankles are tied to one roller, their wrists to the other. The interrogators would hear the low creak of the wood, the groaning tension of the ropes, and then the methodical turning of the wheel by the rack master. Imagine the sensation. First, the muscles, already screaming from days in manacles, are stretched beyond their limits. The feeling is of being torn apart in slow motion. Then comes the sound, a series of soft, sickening pops as ligaments tear away from the bone. Finally, the joints themselves. The shoulders, the hips, the knees, all are pulled from their sockets with a grinding, cracking finality. It is a pain that erases thought. It erases faith. It erases loyalty. The primal brain takes over, with only one objective: make it stop. It was on the rack that John Johnson died, and Guy Fawkes began to talk. He gave his true name, he confessed the full scope of the plot, and then he gave them the names they truly wanted: Catesby, Percy, Winter, Rookwood. One by one, the names of his brothers in conspiracy were extracted from him, each one likely costing another turn of the wheel. The state now had what it needed. All that remained was to formalize the victory. On November 9th, after days of torment, a broken Guy Fawkes was brought before his questioners to sign his confession. This document is perhaps the most haunting piece of evidence in the entire affair. We have two versions of his signature from that period. The first, likely signed after the initial manacling but before the rack, shows his adopted name, Guido. The handwriting is shaky, but it is the writing of a man still in control of his faculties. The second signature is on the full confession, dated after his time on the rack. It is a ghost of a signature, a spidery, barely legible scrawl. The lines tremble violently. The quill seems to have been almost too heavy for his shattered hand to hold. It is not the signature of a man. It is the physiological record of a broken will, the final, ragged output of a human being who has been systematically deconstructed. With his confession secured, the fate of the other plotters was sealed. They were hunted down across England. Some were killed in shootouts. The others were captured, subjected to their own trials, and sentenced to the same fate as Fawkes. His own end came on January 31st, 1606. The sentence was to be hanged, drawn, and quartered, a final public spectacle of state power. He was to be hanged until near death, taken down, castrated, disemboweled while still alive, and then his body cut into 4 pieces. But here, at the very end, the soldier returned. Weakened and broken as he was, as he climbed the gallows, Guy Fawkes jumped. He either jumped or fell from the ladder, but the result was the same. The rope snapped his neck instantly. He denied the state its final, most brutal act of theater. The barrels of gunpowder in the cellar remained silent. The rack in the tower did not. That was the real detonation, the explosion of a man's will. And so the legacy of Guy Fawkes is one of profound irony. We remember the mask he inspired, a symbol of rebellion. But we forget the hand that signed the confession, trembling, broken, and no longer his own. The most powerful statement a government can make is not written with ink, but with pain.